Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.com. Some of you may have seen yesterday that there was a video that had been circulated all throughout the Internet. And in the video, there was a young woman who was in the classroom, and for whatever reason, this young girl was fed up. She was angry that the teacher would not teach her. She yelled and screamed and said, "I'm tired of you not teaching us. I'm tired of you telling us stupid stories. I'm tired of you telling us about smoking weed." I think she said something like that. I'm not sure. But basically, the girl was just tired of hearing things that had nothing to do with education. And I was inspired by the video because I love seeing young people stand up to get what they deserve. And also, it's ironic that she's from Chicago, which is a city that has so many problems when it comes to our youth, whether it's violence, the poor educational system, the lack of economic opportunity, etc. And so to talk about this, I want to bring in one of our editors at Your Black World, Miss Maria Lloyd, to talk about this. And Maria happens to live in Chicago, so she kind of has an inside point of view on this. Maria, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really well, really well. Now, you mentioned to me that you felt passionate about this video as well when you saw it. Can you describe how you felt when you watched this video and some of the thoughts that went through your head?
Absolutely. Well, first off, my heart is shattered because I think it's pitiful that we have to have our youth stand up for education, demanding education, and we're not demanding that on their behalf. So my initial response was literally my heart was shattered. I had tears in my eyes when I watched this child stand up with conviction and basically just exude the frustration that we should all have, that our kids are not receiving the resources they need to learn and, better themselves.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I wrote an article about it, and I said, this anger this girl is showing is something that maybe all of us need to show. I actually quoted Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, a Harvard professor, who said that great women are rarely well-behaved. So everybody who watched this video and looked at this little girl and said, "Oh, she's not a well-behaved child. She needs to be more disciplined. She needs to sit down." Well, guess what? The fact is that she's doing what needs to happen. And when it comes to doing what's right, you have to be willing to misbehave. Now, again, I'm not assuming that I know the whole story. I'm not assuming that this teacher is a bad teacher or even that this woman was justified in what she did. But let's go ahead and try to make that assumption that there was a legitimate concern that she was expressing in this classroom. Well, maybe she was right to kind of stand up and say, this is enough. Enough of this nonsense. If you look at some of the greatest people in this country, one of the greatest individuals in America actually lives in Chicago on the South Side, Father Michael Pfleger. And one of the things that people know about Pfleger, his name is spelled Pfleger. One of the things that people know about him that follow his career is that he misbehaves on a regular basis because his approach to life is, what would Jesus do? And Jesus would misbehave if it comes to doing what's right. So when it comes to doing what's right for our families, for our children, and for our community, we have to be willing to misbehave. We have to be willing to stand up and speak up. And I'm in alignment with you. I think it's atrocious that these kids have to stand up for their own education, and the adults won't do anything. The adults are sitting back and just observing and kind of watching and kind of wagging our fingers and saying, what's wrong with these kids? So when you, Maria, when you see what's going on in Chicago, which is all around you, you live right there in the heart of the South Side. You have family members in the South Side. You see what's going on with incarceration and how it's affecting our families. You see what our children are growing up with. What do you think people need to understand about some of the challenges that young ladies like this girl might be going through that might help us understand where she was coming from?
Yeah, okay, so the thing I want people to understand about these kids come from a home where they probably don't know their father. The first words they learned were profanity. They learned how to fist fight before they learned how to read. Their mothers have left them home alone for days at a time. They have friends who are in gangs. They've witnessed their first murders when they were just small children. And they've probably been abused by their mother's boyfriends. So in other words, we have kids who have gone through trauma that is as horrific as the soldiers are going through in Iraq. But yet, we expect them to grow up and be productive citizens. And I think until we can understand that these kids have not been fostered in a loving, caring environment, we will never be able to help them because they are not getting the love that they need from home. So are we going to sit back and continue to condemn these kids and look at the chief keeps and say, wow, look at this idiot, this man is a fool? That child has probably never, ever in his life had an adult tell him, good job, I love you, you are amazing. These kids have never been encouraged to do anything. So when we have a young lady like this one standing up and asking for education, she's not asking for welfare. She's not asking for any handouts. She's asking for an education, a quality education. We should not sit back and condemn a child for asking for something that will make them a productive citizen in this country. So we have to first understand that these kids have not received the upbringing that they need, and it's not their fault. It's our fault for allowing them to grow up in these environments and not take them under our wings. As you say, Dr. Watkins, you don't have to have a child to be a parent, and that's very true. We don't have to have children to be a parent to these kids.
Well, I love it, and I think that's so true. We have to remember the value of the village when it comes to raising our kids, and when that child is in your life, just because you're not the sperm donor does not mean that you don't have the obligation and opportunity to impact that child's life. Because remember that when you impact the life of one child, you're impacting the lives of all the people that child's going to interact with over their life. So if you allow a child to grow up with hate and neglect in their heart to the point where they become a monster and a menace to society and end up hurting other people, well, part of that blood is on our hands for allowing that child to become the faulty individual that he or she might become after growing up with that kind of neglect. And I think about that every time I think about a guy I knew who murdered a 3-year-old. I thought, well, when this kid who shot this baby, when this kid was a baby himself, nobody loved him. So as a result, he grew up and became a monster. So we got to stop creating monsters in our communities by allowing these children to be neglected. And based on what I saw, I stand by this young lady. I say speak up, scream up. She's one of the great black leaders of our country as far as I'm concerned, and that's exactly what we need. We need somebody to put some fire under our butts and convince all of us to stand up and do what is right. So I'm very happy that she did what she did. I think that it was one of the greatest displays of passion I've seen in quite a while. So thank you very much for your time, Maria. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for checking us out at YourBlackWorld.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.